Guys, welcome to the first ever episode of Happy Hour, powered by Purpose on Tap.
Let's go.
How about this, guys?
Let's go,
Welcome.
Stan.
Thank you.
We're in a hot, sweaty warehouse, or what feels like it, in Atlanta in May.
Calder has no back sweat. He just told me.
No back.
No, zero.
Yeah,
actually.
zero back sweat. Sitting in a
Because of
leather
that
chair. He's got
incredible
no back
polo
sweat.
that you guys are wearing here.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right, man.
And it's
Got the
Purpose
brand.
on Tap garb, some merch here. There's some really good things that are happening. I'm excited about the merch, but I'm also excited to be sharing this podcast with both of you. My name is Stan. Why don't you guys quickly introduce yourselves?
Yeah.
And then I want to dive in a little bit deeper about Purpose on Tap and why the heck we're even here.
Yeah, totally. My name is Connor Beecham. I'm the current executive director of Purpose on Tap. I just came on about a year and a half ago. Is that about right?
Yeah.
And the ministry has grown so much. And it started in 2016, and I'll let Calder kind of dive into it because he's the OG. But, COVID happened, and then we sort of rebranded and restarted things really kicking off about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So we're back, and I'm going to let Calder explain the history a little bit. But
Yeah, so we started as kind of came from a few different small groups wanting to figure out how can we scale this and have a laid back atmosphere for guys to, come together. And for probably 6 months, me and 5 other guys would just spitball it in my basement with the big whiteboard. And
that's awesome.
drank home brew. I like to brew
Okay.
beer.
All right.
And just talk. What we did was we went to every single men's ministry in the city of Atlanta and cherry picked the best attributes of all of them.
I'm sure there's a lot of men's ministries that you guys cover ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably 15.
Okay.
But, you get a text reminder versus an email reminder.
Yeah.
Things like that. And so as we were planning in the fall of 16, we're looking at launch dates for 2017, and the Falcons were looking good. And we're all from Atlanta.
Don't go there again.
And
PTSD.
we're like, well, what if
I can feel it.
the Falcons go to the Super Bowl? And everyone's like, hey, we're starting this ministry thing. We can't bank our start date if the Falcons go to the Super Bowl or not. So we launched the Monday, I forget what that was, February something, 18th, the day after the loss of the
The
Super
biggest
Bowl.
sale in Super Bowl history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the saddest days in the history.
And we called it a soft launch, and we had about 75 guys come.
Was that a big therapy session that first night? Is that what that was?
Yeah,
Okay.
for everybody.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
gave away 3 beers instead of 2 that night.
Yeah, there was no limit that night.
I love it.
But so that's how we started,
yeah.
and we've done.
So the cool thing, you talk about the beer tickets. People might get confused that you talk about ministry and you're talking about beer. Like, talk about the convergence of even creating a space where like those two things can coexist. Why?
Well, great question. When we were kind of crafting how we wanted the ministry to run, we're like, we got to find a place that has a very low barrier of entry, because we want people to come that maybe have either never been to church or been, but it's been a long time. They got burned by a church.
Yeah.
So we knew we couldn't host it at any church, which would have loved to host us until they learned that beer is a critical part of this. And so we landed at a ministry.
Yeah.
At a brewery.
Yeah.
And we were at Monday night till earlier this year. But we really felt like, hey, the walls in a brewery, it's pretty easy to enter them.
Yeah.
Only thing I'd add on that
Yeah.
is I went to that first event. I've been a faithful POT attendee until I kind of took the reins here.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing for me is all I have to say to somebody is, come have 2 beers with me and listen to Mayo So Well come speak.
Yeah.
And it's like the biggest door opening of all time.
So give me one example. So we've been around now for what, 4 or 5 years, right?
7.
7 years.
Okay, sorry, my math's wrong. But give me one example, like one story of somebody like in this sort of scenario never would have come through a church or whatever, but has come through Purpose on Tap. Like what's a story that you can share?
Dude, I've got so many good ones. Do you have any off the rip?
Yeah, there was one where two guys met, and one of them ended up hiring the other one. And he did that based on where he met him and the shared values that they have.
Yeah.
But I used to have the data. I mean, we've had, I'm guessing, well over 7,000 different guys walk through the door over the past 7 years. It changed, the demographic changed a little bit post-COVID, because it was pre-COVID, it was all my friends.
Yeah.
And just old school Atlanta guys.
Yeah.
And then over the, call it 2 years-ish of COVID, they had their second kid or their third kid, and they didn't have the availability to come and peace out 10 times a year. That's how often we were meeting then.
Yeah.
On a Wednesday night. And so new leadership, almost a decade younger than us, they don't have a bunch of kids running around, and they are able to make it happen. And I'm really excited about the future of POT.
I am too. I'll add on that real quick about just cool life change kind of moment. When new leadership took over, me and the other guys on the board, we decided to make it important that we changed our mission from whatever our old mission statement was to helping men find Christ-centered community. And so what that meant was that Purpose on Tap was the top of this funnel of all community possibility, where you come in the doors, Purpose on Tap, you get your 2 free beer tickets, and you listen to a speaker. That's the top of the funnel.
Yeah.
The middle of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel are basically our opportunity to put guys into small group community and just general, Christian men community.
That's fantastic.
And so what we did was I literally got up there, I put my cell phone number on the board after Jonathan Irons spoke when you were there. And I put my cell phone number up on the board, and I said, text me if you want a small group.
Yeah.
And I had like 30
And we put it on the
guys,
website.
And we put it on the website, put it on my email, had 30 guys text me to get into a small group.
Amazing.
And all those guys are still meeting in the same small group to this day. And so, and several of the guys found the Lord through that small group. So it's like, it's hard for us to track. Guy shows up to Purpose on Tap, finds the Lord that day, right? It's hard for us to track that. But we can track these guys coming in the door and finding community that's Christ-centered. Yeah. And that's our mission.
Yeah.
So
that's so powerful, because you guys are meeting a multitude of needs. One, Calder gets to share his beer recipes and his homebrew. Two, there's plenty of guys that struggle with community, that struggle with vulnerability, that opening themselves up to even meeting new people, right? You just we're creatures of habit by nature. And so you guys are absolutely holding space to just allow and foster connection, which is a powerful thing that guys need desperately. So thank you guys for creating the space for that. I think Monday night needs a huge shout out, because they were such a pivotal part of the beginning stages. And the other thing is, okay, we're here, we're recording this podcast. This becomes, I think, a little bit of the future of digitizing and getting the message out a little bit broader to guys that couldn't come, and to people who don't maybe live in the Atlanta area that might be interested in content like this. So talk a little bit about, like, maybe just some of your hopes, of why this, why now. There's plenty of podcasts out there, but what's something that Happy Hour can meet a need for that might be different than the other podcasts that other guys are listening to?
you want that first?
I think you hit it well with the digitization, getting it out there, markets past Atlanta.
Yeah.
We've always had a vision of wanting to be in, Birmingham or Chattanooga or Greenville or Jacksonville, somewhere close.
Yeah.
Nashville. But that takes a lot of bodies, and a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And this, anybody, anywhere in the world can listen to it.
I think the only thing I'd add on to that is a shout out to Hunter Hanna, who's clipping this up and is the brains behind all marketing for Purpose on Tap. He started our TikTok account, and I've shared this at Purpose on Tap before, but we clipped up, and the first ever Purpose on Tap was Jeff Foxworthy. We started real strong.
Yeah.
And
actually, that
was the second.
No, like the 9th or 10th.
What?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Okay. Shows how much I know.
Yeah.
I thought that was the first in my
No, it's hard to. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Swear.
Okay, whatever.
My math, your history, it's all.
We're screwing it up. Hey, this is why we brought in the OG.
Yeah.
But either way, the Jeff Foxworthy one was an early one. And he came in and he had a couple things, obviously, that he said that were awesome and funny and whatever. And Hunter has gone through all of these little clips and pieced them together into TikTok digestible content. And one of the videos has gotten like 3 million views on TikTok. And it gained us all these followers. And we're not using that as an opportunity to try and do anything other than share the good news
Spread
of the
the word.
gospel of Jesus Christ.
That's awesome.
And so he is doing that. And so to me, I started seeing it. And we're talking 2,000, 3,000 comments on this thing, right? I mean, there's an insane amount of people that are like, amen, or I've been struggling in my church because of this, or I found the Lord because of what Jeff said. And it's like, oh my gosh. So digitization is key. And I'm so pumped that you're doing this. So let's just keep it ripping.
Well, I think we should just jump into our first ever episode here, and really the crux and the meat of like this episode, which is Mayo Soul. Why don't you just set it up really quick? So this was taking place on in May at Purpose on Tap. So tell us about Mayo a little bit, and then so how'd you meet him, and how'd you get him at Purpose on Tap?
So Mayo and I connected through a guy, not the Auburn Bo Jackson, but another guy named Bo Jackson who lives in Atlanta, who's one of my dad's friends. And I have no idea how they connected, but he and I got coffee. And from the second that we started connecting, I just felt like, I was like, man, this guy's my buddy. He's a good dude. He's down to earth. He's had a lot of life experience that a lot of guys won't ever have the ability to have. And I'll let him share about his story, but I'm just so excited. What's so cool about Mayo to me is he's incredibly relatable. He is a really excellent communicator, and he loves the Lord. Like he absolutely loves the Lord, and it shines through in all different types of cultures, all different types of walks. And his life experience helps people relate to him.
It's cool.
So I'm just so pumped to get a chance to talk to him.
It was incredible. His conversation that night was so powerful, but I'm excited to let's get out of the way. And guys, enjoy Mayo Soul.
Let's do it.